Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community.
Hello, and welcome to the Modernize or Die's podcast, CFML News Edition. I'm Eric Peterson, and I'm joined today by Matthew Clemente. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Doing really well, and excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We are continuing our Christmas tradition of having a special guest from the ColdFusion community, and we've kept it a secret till now, I think. And yeah, we're glad to have you. Matt's a developer at Season 4, and is responsible for many a good module, including a lot of API wrappers I enjoy using on ForgeBox. So, we'd like to thank our sponsor this week, our sponsor Ortus Solutions. Ortus Solutions is releasing free and paid content every week on our video platform CFCasts. You can now stream the ColdBox Zero to Hero workshop as a paid subscriber, and also check out our 12 Modules of Christmas for free at CFCasts.com.
I was watching some of those. You put those together, right?
Yes, I've been going through all of those modules. There's so many modules, it's hard to get it down to 12. So we'll talk about those in a minute in our CFCast section. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. We currently have 33 Patreons covering 57% of the funding for this podcast. Thank you so much. If you love our podcast and what we do in the open source community, you can consider chipping in at patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. Okay, let's get to some of the news for this week. We had a few releases. The first one, I'm going to make fun of Brad for this one. It's CommandBox 5.2.1. And the reason I'm going to make fun of Brad for it is because he has new features in a patch release.
Oh.
Come on, Brad.
Going against your very strict rules there. Very strict Semvar rules.
That's all good. But it's fun to tease Brad anyway.
I noticed the tab completion inline as a new feature, and I enabled that immediately because I really like how that looks. It's a nice little touch there. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that's one of those great benefits of building on top of open source. I believe that was just given to us from JLine. So we updated JLine, nice. And all of a sudden, hey, nice. You can do this inline stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, some notable changes are the new tab completion. You can have an inline mode that shows it as you type. Here, I'll switch over and show you what that looks like here. Additionally, you can log out of ForgeBox if you're dealing with multiple ForgeBox instances, if you have one on premise. And there is more debugging information for the new server profiles. So that's the feature that let you lock down your CommandBox servers by default just by giving it a production profile. So
very nice.
And lastly, there's a new single server mode that you're going to want to read up with if you use CommandBox and Docker. That just gets rid of some of the extra weight the CommandBox has to manage multiple servers, where you don't need that in a Docker environment. So it looks we use
CommandBox and Docker, so I'm gonna have to dive in and explore that. That's pretty awesome.
So there's some other bug fixes and improvements you can check out, and you can check that out on the Ortus Solutions blog. There was another release this week from an Ortus product, and that is CommandBox 6.2 and its subsequent patch 6.2.1, because you don't get away from patch releases when you're as big as ColdBox. So a lot of the benefits in this one come down to the async manager that was released in ColdBox 6. And we have some numbers for you, but I want to save that for our tweet section. But a lot of performance improvements with async, with some rendering improvements, and also the whoops error template that came in. We've slimmed that down a lot as well. Then one of my favorites, here showing the screen again, is the new test dependency injection, which is your test cases that extend the ColdBox-based test case now are auto-wired for you when you add the auto-wire annotation. Prior to that, it wasn't. You could do it all for yourself, and before all, I can't tell you the number of times I created my own base test case that auto-wired the file that was there just because I always do this. So it's fun to see it inside TestBox now.
Nice.
Okay. I know this was talked about last week on the podcast, but Advent of Code 2020 is still going on. Matt, have you done any of the Advent of Code this season?
You know what? I haven't. I wish I had. I probably should have live streamed some. I've been a little swamped. I literally, today, I signed up to dive into some of those. It's like Code Wars, but more fun in some ways.
Yeah, I know there's like a leaderboard aspect to it, but I've always ignored it.
Yeah.
In the past, I've tried using it to try out new like programming languages or frameworks. This year, I just kept it simple and stuck with CFML, but did it in task runners. So it's all command box.
Very cool. How many have you done? Are you caught up?
No, I got to day 10, and part 2 just kind of made my mind hurt, and I just never came back. So I'm like a couple weeks behind now. So, but I know that a lot of people do, like you say, live stream them. I could go look up kind of a way to do it and adapt it, but easy to get busy in this season. So I feel good that I got through 10.
Yeah. Infinitely more than I did. So nice.
Okay, well, there is still time to do it. You can sign up at adventofcode.com/2020. You can also join us in the CFML Slack. There is I think it's still called Friday Puzzles channel, but that's where we've been talking about different Advent of Code things.
Oh.
So.
I got to get in there.
Okay. Let's move to our next section. We have our CFCasts Content Updates. And boy, do we have some content updates this week. We launched our 12 modules of ForgeBox Christmas last week, coinciding with the 12 days of Christmas. And we're up to, how many days left till Christmas? I think there's 3 more.
3 more.
So there are 10 videos up there right now covering different modules in the ForgeBox ecosystem. I'm showing you now a sampling of those with Box Ngrok, Cores, Hyper. There's something for everybody in here. And again, this is all free. Merry Christmas from Ortus. We hope you enjoy that. Additionally, there's been some new entries in the ColdBox Zero to Hero workshop, and even a new What's New in Quick video. So lots to go look at in CFCasts this week. Again, that is a wonderful way you can support us and what we do at Ortus Solutions is by signing up for a subscription there. Okay, conferences. Let's move on there. I'm still surprised sometimes how many conferences we have here at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So if you missed it, GitHub had a conference December 8th through 10th, and you can go to their website, githubuniverse.com, and watch them on demand. So it was interesting. We use GitHub a lot for our open source projects, and I was mostly interested in the improvements to GitHub Actions.
Did they have any specific announcements about it? I didn't get to watch.
Nothing like mind-blowing, but we've just been kind of jumping ship from Travis over, and it's been nice. There's definitely some improvements for GitHub Actions, and so nice. I, for one, welcome our new Microsoft overlords.
Yeah.
Another conference that just happened was the AWS reInvent conference. If you remember, that was the one that was literally 18 days long. So, kind of crazy. What's even crazier is when I went to see if they had, like, videos on demand. They have 3 more days coming up in January that they just added.
Wow.
So, I guess that says something about AWS, that you can't fit the content in 18 days, you need 21.
Yeah.
So,
it's easy to get lost in AWS, and I guess AWS reInvent as well.
yes. So, if you're in the AWS world, there's 3 more days coming, January 12th through the 14th in 2021. And that is a free conference. So, okay. And last conference we want to mention, another, in case you missed it, Into the Box Latam happened at the beginning of December. It was a live virtual conference in Spanish and English and Portuguese, 3 languages. And we had about 150 people attending, and it is coming to CFCast soon. So we are looking forward to that. Okay. On to the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. We'll start with one from Charlie, who titles it, "What CF 2021 giveth, CF 2021 taketh away." And it's talking about some features that were announced with 2021 that seem to be either not there or not documented.
Or formerly documented.
Or
no longer documented. I didn't know if he ever got an official response on that. That was kind of interesting that documentation disappeared.
Right. I think, was that the AWS serverless stuff?
And some of the bcrypt functions. I guess they still they work, but the documentation's gone for now.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely know the bcrypt stuff is there because we had to do some changes to the ColdBox bcrypt module to make it not run into clashes. So, interesting. So yeah, if you're working on stuff with the AWS Lambda or serverless integration, the new bcrypt, scrypt stuff, like just know that there seems to be some either on hold or docs missing, and you can take a look at it on Charlie's blog post.
Yeah, Charlie said no official response on that yet.
Got it. Interesting. Okay, well, hopefully we get a response, and we will let you know.
Looks like next we've got a blog post by Robert Zender, and I hadn't read Robert's blog, about quickly converting XML to JSON using org.json.xml with ColdFusion. And he said he's used this before. It's a very short post with a handy parse function that in XML and transforms it to JSON for so it's a handy function there. I've never used this approach. Unfortunately, I haven't had to work too much with XML recently.
Right.
But it seems like that could be really handy if you need to make that transformation.
Yeah. I was impressed with this blog post because a lot of the times I don't look to Java as quick as I should. The reason this one's so short is this is a built-in Java thing. It's a one-liner. And sometimes I forget that. Like, ColdFusion has that full power. I don't have to go write, like, a XML parser to do something.
That's what I would end up doing. And there's a better way.
Right. So that's awesome. Thank you, Robert, for that blog post and that parser function. Okay, our next one is a video. It's a video podcast from TerraTech interviewing Rakshith on the ColdFusion team. It is ColdFusion 2021, revealing details on how it was created. So if you'd like to get some of the inside baseball for the decisions that went into 2021. You can, and even some things on the future roadmap for 2021. You can check out that video on the TerraTech's website.
It seems, I didn't get to watch it, but he has all the notes on what they discussed, and it seems like they went over a lot, pricing and roadmap and all sorts of stuff about it. So it seems like there's a lot there.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Looks like next we have Charlie's blog post on the online ColdFusion Meetup 2020 year in review. And I really like this. I mean, Charlie's done so much with the meetup this year. This is the 15th year running, 278 total sessions. And I think there's 20. They did 20 meetups this year, which has been happening, pretty regularly through the course of the year. And he thanks Dan Wilson, who helps put together a bunch of them, and links to the recordings and the various sessions. Dan Wilson and Charlie for all the work he puts into and ColdFusion 2020 year.
Right. I was impressed with the 20 that they had, that it started in June. So this isn't 20 for the whole year, it's 20 since June. That's quite the pace. So great work. Alrighty. Next up, we have a pair of blog posts from Ben. First one, looking for database performance bottlenecks and optimizations using the sys schema in MySQL 5.7. So this one, I loved this. I love figuring out SQL performance because we all have to deal with it. And I had never used this sys schema before. Had you used that before, Matt?
No, and this is MySQL specific?
I believe so. I actually haven't looked in other database
grammars. No, I haven't.
Now you're a Postgres shop where you're at, is that right?
We're Postgres now. Used to be SQL Server, now we're Postgres, and loving it.
So I would assume there's something similar, but I'm used to taking a query and running it through like an explain, explain plan, all that stuff, and kind of very scientifically looking for the biggest percentage number and figuring out what that means.
Yeah. Translating what all the explain steps mean.
Exactly. But this is interesting in MySQL. This sys schema has things like redundant indexes or unused indexes. They're these views that MySQL populates that you can then query and see different places for performance. Index statistics. This one, very useful. Statements for full table scans. A full table scan means you didn't use an index at all. And so I am excited to use this. I know we have a couple of our Ortus projects running on MySQL. I'm just going to jump in the database and see how bad we're doing and then fix it. So I hope that something like this does exist for other grammars, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server.
We've used a tool for tuning our Postgres database, and now I'm blanking on the name of it. I'm trying to look it up now.
Okay.
It seems like some of the info is there. There's definitely stuff out there. It's very cool, though. Thanks, Ben.
Alrighty. Another Ben post. This one was very interesting. I feel like it went really big. It's not necessarily a ColdFusion specific thing, but it's about microservices and monoliths, which has been a big topic in all of the programming world. I see there's plenty of people that like to argue one way or the other.
I like when Ben tackles these big topics. He always qualifies what he's saying and does like a pretty, he's not writing a side things. He explains like where he's coming from, why, he sees the world. I think you end up with a more holistic view. It's generally not it's not clickbait. He's trying to break down something almost philosophically.
Right. Yeah. Kind of my overview of it is it's not about pro microservices or anti microservices. It's about like what makes sense for this service, and that's what he talks about. I believe he says later on in here that he thinks the biggest disservice that happened to microservices was they were called micro. And micro comes with the connotation of being small and lean and awesome. And but what you need is a service that fits its needs. So, unfortunately for programming, there's no silver bullet. Microservices won't save you. Neither will monoliths. Neither will ColdFusion or Node or whatever programming language you want to throw in. It's all about finding the right fit.
They should be called right-sized services.
Right. I think that I can see Ben's point. I don't think the moniker is going to catch on, but I definitely agree that micro it's trying to make them sound always awesome when you just need to get the right-sized one. So. All right. Well, we have another blog post that took an interesting journey for keeping families connected during this COVID pandemic. I think you'll recognize the name. It's by you.
This one was from me from today, and it's not ColdFusion specific, but it was fun to write up. Our family. I'm from a big family. I'm the oldest of 8, and we were not together for Thanksgiving. So we got smart picture frames and used PipeDream and Twilio and SendGrid so that family members could text pictures to a number and everyone's photo frames showed the pictures over the course of the day. So I just kind of walked through, how we got it set up. And honestly, it was a fun project to put together, and it turned out really nice for our family. So I just wanted to blog about that. So that's that one.
Yeah, I loved it, especially because I've used many of these services like Twilio and SendGrid, and even if you're not doing it in ColdFusion, like these are services that if you're familiar with, when it's time, you're going to be able to plug them in. So, sounds like a fun little way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like part of my familiarity with the services was writing the ColdFusion API wrappers. So when I needed to read the attachments or attach that and hook into the SendGrid's API, it was because I had already written a wrapper that I could piece together the pieces that I needed.
Well, I thought that was a pretty awesome blog post and gave me ideas for my, I don't have quite as big a family, but I definitely have a less tech-savvy family. So that was great. Thanks for that. Okay, this next one is a tweet, and there's some background to it. React, the JavaScript framework from Facebook, just launched a demo. I don't know if you call it a demo, like their research into data fetching with React server components, which is a strange name given that React is a client-side library. But it's their way to run certain code in a React component only on the server, and you don't even ship the JavaScript to the front end. It is interesting, but the most interesting thing and kind of the joke came from this tweet here, which I'll show on the screen, from Brendan Boyle, following this picture of one of these React server components where you can see it is a React component that also does a database query right in there. He says, ColdFusion is back, baby. And you can see Brad jumped in too, because Brad has a watch on ColdFusion, I think. But yeah, it's funny how these front-end frameworks are really just the pendulum keeps swinging between like everything on the front end, everything on the back end, and it's just like almost coming back to Ben's post of like what's the right size for your application.
It was, I mean, Dan's tweet there with the database query right there in line, and then looping over it with a bunch of LIs. I mean, when I started ColdFusion, I don't know how many times I wrote this with like select a star from states, and then looped over them in a, an LI or a select with a list of states. It's like beat for beat.
Yeah, I almost wish I had taken the time now to rewrite this in like ColdFusion tags, right? You'd have your CF query, your UL, a CF loop, and then your LIs. Like,
yep, it's right there.
So yeah, everything comes back, and it is interesting. There's other frameworks that have been doing this, like in Elixir, Phoenix has a live view. Laravel and PHP has their live wire, and there are these ideas of the servers doing much more work and just sending what's needed to the client. The server's doing all the diffing. It's kind of taking that job that we gave front-end JavaScript back. And it will be interesting to see the trade-offs, right? I bet that in some cases one outperforms the other, but not in others.
Yeah.
So.
It is funny just how much of what goes on is trend-driven. And the trend rides one way, and then the trend rides the other way, and, what's old is new again.
That's right. So ColdFusion is back right now, and then in 5 years it will be dead again. So enjoy it while it lasts, everybody. Okay. Our last blog tweets and video is a set of tweets from the Ortus master himself, Luis Mahano, going over some of the ColdBox asynchronous support, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I wanted to give you some example code that he tweeted out and also some numbers. So this is the most exciting one. He has a benchmark, and you can go get the benchmark in the ColdBox test suite, showing how fast you can get with the async parallel constructs. You might have used Lucy's parallel like for each or map. It's faster than that. You can go through and see all of these and how fast we're getting. That middle one, state injection features with all apply, and the custom executor. We're cutting down like 5 seconds off of a synchronous call, so that's pretty awesome. There's some examples that he has of what you can do with this. Not quite as big a picture as I want. There we go. Where in addition to running things in parallel, you can schedule things for the future. So here's a ColdBox app that is scheduling for your backup frequency, whatever that is, probably a few days, and this will just run that task, run backups on that frequency. You can do this for any of your schedules. We are looking at here kind of a race. You would think of this as promise.race, I believe, in JavaScript. But you're throwing off different HTTP requests, and whichever one comes back first, you're good, and you skip the rest. So again, if you've done a lot with promises in JavaScript or Java's async programming, you're going to feel right at home with the ColdBox asynchronous package.
That is very cool.
Yeah, and then here we go about an async feed reader. So this is running all 5 of these feeds in parallel, and when it's done, it's printing out the feed title and its blog posts. So there's a lot of awesome things going on here, helping tame that CF thread craziness, digging into Java to use their completable features. It's some pretty awesome stuff. Also, the async stuff is part of Wirebox, so even if you're not using ColdBox, you can install Wirebox to get all of this goodness.
Wow.
So, give you a little sneak peek. I need to get Luis on doing a CFCasts series just for the async stuff, because I think that would go really great with our community.
So much to learn. So much to explore.
Not enough time.
That's awesome.
Okay, that takes us to the end of our blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. And we'll move on to Find a Job. So there are, as always, we look at getcfmljobs.com, and they have over 60 ColdFusion positions from 40 different companies across 31 locations in 5 countries. There are 5 new jobs this week. There is a full-time position, remote or Chicago, for Alpine Home Air products. That one's actually a Stack Overflow jobs. There's a full-time position with TCS, a ColdFusion developer at St. Louis, Missouri. A full-time ColdFusion developer at Zenith System Solutions in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. A full-time hotel planner position at Hotel Planner at West Palm Beach, Florida. And a full-time position at AEDSO Technical, I think, at Springville, Illinois.
Nice. 5 jobs. It's great.
Ortus, I believe, still has their career post up. So if you are interested in working with Ortus as a senior ColdFusion developer, you do need to have U.S. time zone availability and either a U.S. citizen or resident or a work visa. But come apply, come work with us. We're awesome. I said very humbly. We'd love to work with you too.
Everybody knows you're awesome.
But we'd love to add your awesomeness to the mix. So, okay, that brings us to the ForgeBox module of the week. And as our guest, Matt, we let you pick the module and the VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. So, turn it over to you.
I'm excited here. So the ForgeBox module of the week is commandbox-bookmarks by Adam Euans. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. And what it is it's a CommandBox custom command that gives you the ability to bookmark directories for quick navigation. So if you have a handful of directories that you're frequently navigating to, like I do, you can mark them and jump to them quickly. So you bookmark your downloads folder, and then you can quickly go to it, bookmark, go to, and then whatever name you gave that directory. So it's a really handy, quick way of navigating the terminal without having to type out full paths. I mean, you don't even have to use tab completion. Your commonly used directories get bookmarked, you can list them, jump to them. So it's a really handy tool. And also, if you want to write a CommandBox custom command, you could dig into the code here because he's working with the file system, he's working with settings. So it's a pretty neat one to explore from that side too.
Yeah, I actually had found this myself in the 12 Modules of Christmas, and there's a video about it that you can go watch for free right now, navigating with CommandBox bookmarks. So it is a great package, like you said, not having to figure out all those paths or have 6 terminal tabs open because you don't want to change directories. Very useful. Okay, how about our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week?
Okay. This is a little bit different because it is not a extension, but it is Caleb Porzio's book, Make VS Code Awesome. So you can go to makevscodeawesome.com. And just a little backstory. I think Eric turned me on to this. Caleb is a PHP, I think he works with Livewire, among other things.
He created Livewire, yeah.
He created Livewire. And obviously he's in VS Code all the time. And he started writing about the various things that he does to customize VS Code. And it started as, I think, an email newsletter type thing. And I was following that. And they're all these really helpful tips on getting distractions out of your way and setting up VS Code so that you can work, just productively. So I followed the emails, and then he turned it into a book, and it's paid. So, maybe buy it for yourself for Christmas. But I bought it when it came out. And there's these little handy tips. One of the ones is, and it's probably controversial for some people, but like the file navigator, he moves from the left to the right. so that it's not constantly jockeying your code. And then he walks you through a bunch of key bindings for hiding things and getting to not everything that it suggests, but there were so many actionable little pieces in there that I use that have made VS Code even more pleasant to work with. So that's makevscodeawesome.com.
Yeah. And I'm going to put up a VS Code panel right here because Matt said it's controversial to put it on the right, and that is incorrect. It is, this is the way. As you can see,
this is the way.
Putting it up and forth, my code does not jump back and forth. I can do it forever.
It just makes a lot of sense.
It does, and it feels weird for about a day, and then you're over it, and you have a great new life. So This is the way. Awesome. Thanks for those, Matt. That brings us here to the end of the podcast, our special Christmas episode. And we are so grateful, Matt, for you joining us. Thanks for coming on.
I'm honored to be here.
Thanks for all of your work in the open source ecosystem as well. Where can people find you if they want to hear more from you?
People can find me on Twitter, MJ Clemente before, on GitHub, MJ Clemente, and on the CFML Slack channel. And I blog at blog.mattclemente.com. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you. And we want to take this chance to thank our Patreon supporters. Again, we couldn't do this without you. You support this podcast as well as our open source initiatives. I'll go ahead and read those because I feel like it'd be rude to make our guests go through these names. So
thank you.
Thank you to Ben Nadal, Brett DeLine, Carl Van Stetten, Charlie Earhart, Da Lee, Dan Card, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Edgardo Cabezas, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Erickson, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamery, Kai Koenig, Laxma Titrahadi, Mario Rodriguez, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Oden, Stephen Klotz, Symmetrics, and Yogesh Mathur. Thank you all for supporting us, supporting this podcast, and all that we do at Ortus Solutions. And I hope all of you have a happy holidays, a safe holidays. We're going to take next week off from the podcast for our own holiday, and so we will see you in the new year. Have a good one.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.